Yeah, for the healthy eating and stuff, right?
You all are good to go.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Pennsylvania Mental Health Team of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, I would like to thank all of you for joining us this evening for our discussion, More Than the Blues. My name is Whitney Strickland, and I am a medical social worker at Temple University Hospital. I've been working at the facility for about 11 years. I serve as secretary on the executive board at Action Wellness, which is an agency that serves clients with chronic illnesses. I also serve as a buddy administrator as well as a buddy volunteer. First and foremost, before we get started, we must pay homage to those that came before us.
Whitney, you're on mute.
I see it now. Sorry. I started looking. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us for our discussion. On behalf of the Pennsylvania Mental Health Team of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, I don't know, not sure why it keeps going in and out. Can everyone hear me now? Okay. Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the Pennsylvania Mental Health Team of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening for our discussion, More Than the Blues. My name is Whitney Strickland, and I'm a medical social worker at Temple University Hospital, where I've been working at the hospital for about 11 years. I also serve as the secretary on the executive board at Action Wellness, which is an agency that serves individuals with chronic illnesses. I also serve as a buddy administrator and a buddy volunteer at the agency as well. But before we get started, first and foremost, we must pay homage to those that came before us. We must give respect to our 5 illustrious founders, known as our 5 pearls. Giving respect to the most honorable Arizona Cleaver Simmons, the most honorable Pearl Anna Neal, the most honorable Myrtle Tyler Faithful, the most honorable Viola Tyler Goins, and the most honorable Fannie Petty Watts. We must also give respect to our leadership, our International Grand President, Sor Valerie Hollingsworth Baker, our Atlantic Regional Director, Sor Gina Mara Epps Esquire, and as well as our Pennsylvania State Director, Sor Diane Wilson. Please note, More Than the Blues is a webinar that will discuss mental health. It is not to be used for clinical purposes. The panelists on this discussion will not provide any mental health diagnosis or treatment of any kind. We ask that if you have any concerns regarding your mental health and possibly interested in seeking treatment, that you seek the guidance of a mental health professional. With the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, along with racial tensions and social injustices within our country, many of us have had our mental health compromised and our coping mechanisms have been challenged. Sadly, we have been forced to accept this as a new norm. This evening, you will hear from many mental health professionals speaking on depression, seasonal blues, coping mechanisms, and self-care. At the end of this discussion, we will provide you with mental health resources that we will list in both the YouTube and Facebook live chats. We will also allow for a Q&A. Therefore, we ask that everyone hold their questions and comments until the end. Feel free to post them in either chat. So without any further delay, let me first introduce you to Sora Raquel Ford, who will inform us of the signs and symptoms of depression. Sora Raquel Ford is a licensed social worker employed by the Allegheny County Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Families as a peer coach specialist, where she coaches staff in the agency's practice model to empower families and keep fidelity to the work of child welfare in Allegheny County. Raquel volunteers as a mental health first aid instructor with the Jefferson Regional Foundation. She serves on many boards, including Foundation of Hope. She is a state mental health coordinator and a founder of a Kindred Culture, a nonprofit organization focused on individual, family, and community engagement. Raquel, please educate us on the signs and symptoms of depression. So, please unmute yourself.
These mutes. Greetings, everyone. Depression is a mood disorder. It's the most common mood disorder there is. And 6.8% of adults are affected by depression. It is most common in females than in males. And not every case of depression is a severe case of depression. So there may be times when we see people who have depression who may not be demonstrating all signs that we may believe or see that's related to depression, but they may be going through a course of depression. Depression has no single cause, but it can be involve social, biological, sociological factors, and when something distressing has happened to someone. Depression can last for 2 weeks, and it often co-occurs with anxiety and substance use disorders. There are different symptoms in depression that we may see in people, but like I said previously, it may not always be the same symptoms, or you may not see all the symptoms at one time. And those symptoms are symptoms such as they are usually sad. There could be a loss of enjoyment, a loss of interest in things that they have done before that they have seen enjoyable. Um, may have a lack of energy, always appear tired. They may feel worthless, maybe feeling guilty about things that they have done no wrong with. They may often think about death or wishing that they weren't alive. They may have difficulty concentrating and making decisions. Sometimes we may see people move slowly and have difficult time sleeping. And there may also be some issues with diet. There may be some weight gain, or there can be weight loss. So like I said, not every person who is depressed will exhibit all of these symptoms that I just named, but those are just some of the symptoms that we can see in a person. So a person may have thoughts of severe criticism, they may self-blame, they may be pessimistic, they may have impaired memory, they may have crying spells, lack of energy, and they may exhibit headaches, irregular menstrual cycles in women, and and they may be slowed down and have a lack of motivation in the way that they pursue life. And so you may see a person that you are really familiar with, and you're like, what's going on with you? And it just may appear that you see those slow and moving, the speaking slow, the poor hygiene. That's a big one. Like you may realize that people are no longer taking care of themselves in the way that they have once cared for their body. They may have been a fashionista, right? And now you're seeing them and they're not looking like a fashionista anymore, but more so if something has happened to them. They're not the same person that they used to be. And they could be sad and anxious and, have those poor thinking patterns and saying things such as, I'm not worthy. What's the use of being here anymore? I can't move forward. But what I want you to all know that there is recovery in depression. You don't have to remain depressed. You can recover through this. Sora Whitney.
Thank you so much for giving us the signs and symptoms of depression and things to look out for within ourselves and within others. At this time, we will have Sora Delane Castellano speak to us on seasonal blues. Dr. Castellano, who also likes to be referred to as Dr. C, is a board-certified psychiatrist in Philadelphia. Dr. C has worked with ethnically diverse populations in a multitude of healthcare settings with a focus on women's mental health. Dr. C is a founding member and a treasurer of Global Health Psychiatry, LLC, also known as GHP. GHP is composed of a group of African American psychiatrists committed to empowerment of individuals through mental health education and community action. Dr. C, please educate us on this concept of seasonal blues.
Good evening. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm so thankful to be here today, and I'm so thankful to have this conversation about more than the blues. It reminds me of a lot of conversations I have with people who come into my office. So people come in to talk about their feelings a lot of times, and I usually like to start with saying that we all have a range of emotions. So hopefully all of us know what it's like to feel happy. But we also know what it feels like to feel angry or scared. And we do know what it feels like to feel sad as well. But we don't always call it sadness. And so particularly in African Americans and African American women in particular, we often want to appear strong. Due to a legacy of mistreatment in this country, we don't technically or usually want to use words that make us feel vulnerable. So sometimes we may say, I feel blue, or we may say that I'm stressed out. In Philly, we like to say I'm feeling some kind of way. But really all of this refers to times when we may have a feeling of sadness. And when this sadness occurs on a seasonal basis, we may call it the seasonal blues. It's also called the winter blues at times because it really refers to the times when we have sadness when it's turning into the colder and darker months of the fall and the winter. And this is due to a lack of sunlight. So when the days get shorter, we have less sunlight, and having less sunlight actually has a lot of effects on our minds and our body. So the first thing that can happen when we don't have enough sunlight is that we have a decrease in our serotonin. Serotonin is one of the feel-good chemicals in our brain. And so if that chemical goes down, we may have mood changes. When the days are shorter and the nights are longer, it can affect our circadian rhythms. That's a change in our sleep-wake patterns, so that we're usually awake when it's daylight and we're sleeping when it's nighttime. And so if the days change, again, it can change our circadian rhythms. When sunlight is less, we also have changes in our melatonin. This is another chemical in our brain that actually works to help promote sleep when it's dark outside. So if there's more dark hours, then we have higher levels of melatonin, which can affect our mood if we're more tired or sleeping more. And lastly, some of you may have heard, if you don't get enough sunlight, you can have lower vitamin D levels. So vitamin D is converted in our bodies when we get sunlight. And so if we have less of it, then we have less vitamin D. There's growing evidence that this can be linked to depression and has other effects in our body, but there's growing evidence that it can actually also affect our mood. So why is all of this important? Because if you have all of these changes, you can then have a decrease in interest, decrease in motivation, changes in your sleep patterns. And a lot of this probably sounds like what Sora Ford was talking about earlier when it comes to depression. But when we're talking about seasonal blues, it usually doesn't affect our functioning. So I tend to think of the example of when I used to drive to work and I was leaving to work and the days were changing, I would take notice of it. When it was dark outside when I would leave and it was dark outside when I came out of work, I would realize maybe I'm not as motivated to go for that walk or go to the gym the way that I was in the summer. But generally, I was usually able to function, being able to go to work, at home, versus when we have depression, all of that is impaired. So about 14% of people tend to experience seasonal blues. So it's fairly common, and it's important for us to recognize the symptoms because there's things that we can do. So one, we want to get more sunlight. We want to go for a walk outside, even if we stand outside for just a few moments to get some of that sunlight, convert that vitamin D, increase those levels, but it'll also increase our serotonin as well, decrease that melatonin, again, affecting our mood. We want to make sure we maintain healthy sleeping patterns. So try to get up at the same time every day, try to go to bed at the same time every day, no caffeine after 12 noon. And the bed is for sleeping and other bed-related activities, TVs, tablets, cell phones. That blue light actually can really affect our ability to maintain our sleep patterns. And so it's important to maintain the usual sleep patterns when it changes outside. And we also want to make sure we maintain a healthy diet. Again, there's vitamin D rich foods, but reducing our carbs and starchy diets. And we're going to talk a little bit more about healthy eating as we go along today. But when it comes to this seasonal blues, you really want to have a lot of healthy foods. And you want to continue to exercise. That increases serotonin, but it increases endorphins as well, which are another feel-good chemical in our brain. So for some people, when these symptoms become more severe and impact our functioning, then we call it seasonal depression. It's also called seasonal affective disorder. This can affect about 6% of people, and it can be really impairing. And the rates may vary in different parts of the country. So in the northernmost parts of the area where the days are shorter, rates may be 9%, but in in the southern areas of the country where there's more daylight, it might be 1 to 2%. So it's important, again, to identify these symptoms so that we can get help. As Sora Ford was saying, this can be really impairing. It's important to reach out to someone you trust, a trusted friend, a loved one, so you can talk about your feelings during this time. You may want to see your primary care doctor who can check your vitamin D levels, make sure there's no other medical problems. And you may need to reach out to a therapist for talk therapy to talk about your feelings during these times. A psychiatrist may recommend antidepressants, which increases that serotonin and can really impact your mood. And when it comes to seasonal affective disorder, there is one treatment that's kind of unique. It's called light therapy. It's when a person gets a special box and they actually put their face in the light to simulate that sunlight that you can get. And so that can be prescribed. It may not be prescribed as often as it could be, but with so many changes with COVID, as we've been talking about, it's important to consider all of these options for ourselves. So I want to sort of pass this along to my next soror, who's going to talk about other types of blues and the ways that we can take care of ourselves in the process.
Thank you so much, Dr. C, for your expertise in explaining the concept of seasonal blues. Now that we've heard about seasonal blues as well as depression earlier from Soror Ford, now it's important that we discuss how do we cope with depression or seasonal blues? How are we coping with the holiday blues? And next we have Soror Shayna Givner, who will explain to us how to cope with holiday blues. Soror Givner works as an outpatient drug and alcohol counselor in Pittsburgh, working with individuals transitioning to the community from incarceration. She'll be graduating next Friday. She's getting her master's in social work with a certificate in mental health. So kudos to you, Soror Givner, on your accomplishments. That is something definitely to be praised. Soror Givner, please explain to us, how do we cope with holiday blues? We just celebrated Thanksgiving. We have other holidays coming up in the following weeks. What can we do?
All right, so first I would like to thank everybody for having me. The holidays are typically viewed as a joyous part of the year. However, feelings of happiness and anticipated rejoicing are often associated with planned celebrations and family gatherings. From November to December, people can experience a period of painful reflection, sadness, loneliness, anxiety, and depression. These symptoms can be referred to as the holiday blues. With the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, limiting social gatherings, stress levels during this holiday season may be more severe. Additionally, the holiday blues has become compounded by grief caused by the unfortunate loss of loved ones during this international crisis, and secondary losses for unemployment rates and or loss of income from a spouse or other financial contributor. So common symptoms, which are very similar to seasonal affective disorder and depression, are difficulty concentrating, feeling irritable or angry, feelings of exhaustion and fatigue, feelings of loneliness, lack of pleasure in normal daily activities, losing interest in activities that you normally enjoy, sleeping more often or much less than normal, making decisions, and withdrawing from friends and family. So what I would like to go into, what I would like to go into now, tips to overcome the holiday blues. I just want to note that, of course, a lot of things that you guys are hearing from me and that you will hear from me as far as a coping skill, being active in your process to get past these symptoms. You must maintain activity. You can do that by sticking to a normal routine. What that may mean for you is create a structured day. Plan your meals. If you're working remotely, take the lunch anyway. And I emphasize that. It's easy to just work through and forget, to take a moment, take a breath, walk away from the computer, go outside, get some air, and schedule time away from the computer and stop watching the news so much. Get enough sleep and exercise. Be mindful of overeating and drinking, and avoid alcohol and substances. Excuse me. I would like to suggest that with the prevalence of Zoom and other virtual platforms, to replace happy hours and implement family game nights with apps such as Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and Family Feud. With that being stated, thank you for my portion of this presentation. I would like to pass it back to Soror Whitney. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Soror Givner. Now that we are better prepared on how to cope with the holiday blues with the upcoming holidays in the next few weeks. Next, we will have Soror Carmen Brown Valentine discuss how can we improve our self-care? What can we do to improve our mental wellness? Soror Brown Valentine is a master level licensed social worker employed by Drexel Medicine Partnership Comprehensive Care Practice in Philadelphia as a medical case manager. She works with persons living with HIV/AIDS using motivational interviewing techniques to encourage clients to be a voice in their own care. She also co-facilitates a weekly women's group aiming to increase client self-confidence, focusing on trauma, reducing shame and stigma while living with HIV/AIDS. So Brown Valentine, please tell us, what can we do, especially with the pandemic and everything that's going on in the country? What can we do to improve our self-care so we are overall improving our mental wellness?
Greetings. Thank you for having me. Take a moment, close your eyes, and feel the depth of your inner being. If self-care is necessary or selfish, it's necessary. If you're not caring for yourself, how can you possibly take care of others? Self-care is what people do for themselves to maintain mental wellness. How do you nurture yourself? It could be going to the hair salon, going to the nunnery, watching a good movie, playing golf, going fishing, or having a day of retail therapy. All of these ideas are great. But let's take self-care to another level. Look at all aspects of your life. 3 come to mind. 1, physical. Are you eating healthy meals combining enough fruits and vegetables? Drinking enough water, at least 8 glasses a day? And exercising at least 3 times a week? Having a healthy daily routine helps to maintain mental wellness and to keep your doctor away. 2, social. Are you fostering healthy relationships with loved ones and friends? Having connections with others is one of the key facets living a healthy life. 3, mental. Are you caring for yourself mentally? 2020 has been a challenging year for everyone. Have you considered unplugging from the news, social media, or taking some me time to regroup? So saying all this, self-care is extremely important, especially during these trying times we are living in. I often remind my clients to consider doing radical self-care during these stressful times, to be intentional, caring for yourself, whatever that is. I encourage all of you on this webinar to do radical self-care because it's only one year. Thank you. I'm passing the torch back to Soror Whitney.
Thank you so much for that, Soror Brown Valentine. We have truly received a lot of great information. Can I tell you how awesome my sorors are? They have informed you about seasonal blues, signs and symptoms of depression, coping with holiday blues, as well as trying to improve your self-care. And another great way of improving your self-care is changing your eating habits, learning healthy eating habits. And we will now have Soror Shanika Moten that was discuss with you how to change your eating habits, how certain foods actually improve your mood. Soror Moten is a health education supervisor working in this field for 17 years. She currently provides services at a Better Start Nutrition program at Einstein Medical Center. Soror Moten, please tell us which foods can improve our mood or make things worse. That way we don't maybe have seasonal blues or depression. What can we do?
Thank you for having me. I just want to start by saying a healthy lifestyle not only changes your body, but also changes your mind, attitude, and your mood. The concept of food and medicine has been around for thousands of years. And for thousands of years, proper nutrition has proven to be one of the most important concepts in the world of medicine. Although it's sometimes surprising in modern era, Following a good diet is often considered to be the key to inner peace, a fit body, and clear thinking. For people who are depressed, a simple dietary change can be just the thing they were missing all this time. Nutritionists, doctors, psychologists, and other medical professionals all agree that food plays a massive role in not only our physical well-being, but also our mental well-being. So I'm going to be listing some foods to start letting your food healing. It heals you from the inside out. Nutrition and depression are intrinsically linked. The majority of individuals who suffer from depression benefit greatly from making dietary changes that overall improve health and target depression symptoms. The cause of depression varies from person to person, so slight differences in terms of diet may be beneficial to treat these variations. But no matter what the cause, there are some key concepts to understand in regard to how diet treats depression. So, how exactly does diet treat depression? One of the first things to understand is that gut and brain concept, okay? That connection. When your stomach is upset and your internal organs are struggling to keep up with an unhealthy diet, your mood is also negatively affected as a result. When you eat clean, healthy foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and other whole unprocessed foods, you're more likely to end up in a better mood. Vitamins, minerals, proteins, and omega fatty acids are some of the key players when it comes to treating depression with healthy choices. I'm going to list some blues battling food. We got to get our armor on, y'all. We got to get our armor, okay? Blues battling foods. There are many foods that can target and treat depression symptoms. There are just a few of the best and well-known foods that are easily accessible, affordable, and tasty that you can incorporate into your diet to help reduce depression. Now, for those of us who celebrate Thanksgiving, what do we cook? What was that big bird? Turkey. So turkey contains the precursors necessary for the body to make tryptophan, a key component in creating adequate serotonin, the happy hormone in the body. When your body is having trouble manufacturing or obtaining amino acids from your diet, your mood and overall well-being suffer greatly. Amino acids are essential for building proteins, which are in turn needed to create and manage hormones. If you're feeling the blues, chances are good eating, good foods that you're eating like turkey that are rich in amino acids and their precursor will help you feel better. Chicken is on that list too now. Okay, it's how we bake it, how we make it. Okay, another food is walnuts, cashews, and seeds. One of the primary dietary recommendations for people with depression is to eat more omega-3 fatty acids, precisely because of their anti-inflammatory qualities. All nuts are high in omega fatty acids, but walnuts, cashews, and seeds, like chia seeds or flax seeds, for example, have unusually high levels. Add some walnuts or cashews to your salad or throw some seeds onto or into your smoothie to get an extra dose of omega-3s throughout the day. Walnuts also make a great on-the-go snack. Unrefined sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds are good choices too. When I say unrefined, I don't mean the ones that have the barbecue salt, the barbecue splattered on them, or the ranch sunflower seeds. I mean just the seed on the inside. So one thing that we can do is basically make a trail mix. When you have trail mix as a great snack, you have dried fruits you put in there, you have your seeds, you have your nuts, you have whole grains like pretzels or a whole grain cereal like Cheerios, and you add a little bit of chocolate. Treat yourself. Also, moving on to another food that's our blues battling food is oats. Eat your oats, okay? Did you know that oats boost your happy hormone levels, calming the brain and boosting your mood? Another blues battling food is our dark leafy greens, that kale and that spinach, okay? They are fantastic to incorporate into your diet because of the high nutritional content, but vegetables like kale and spinach, they are well suited to treating the symptoms of mood problems like depression and anxiety. Our dark leafy greens have high levels of nutrients such as folate and iron, both of which have been proven effects on reducing depression symptoms. Iron deficiency can cause a wide range of health problems, including not only depression, but also fatigue, trouble concentrating, severe headaches, and anxiety. Eating more leafy greens can boost iron intake and minimize the symptoms of anemia, which is our lower blood, thus also eliminating some symptoms of depression as well. With our dark leafy greens, we can make a very berry kale salad. So you can take some berries, strawberries and blueberries. You can take your kale, mix it around, and you can get those foods, those blues battling meal to help boost your mood. Avocado is another food that's high in omega fatty acids, a food component that's vital for stabilizing and improving mood. Avocados are high in an amino acid component that inhibits the absorption of negative or toxic fats into the digestive tract. Meanwhile, the fats that are actively present in avocado are quite healthy. Nonetheless, although avocados are very healthy and have a lot of nutrients like vitamin E, beta carotene, and folate, you want to be careful to not eat too much. We want to also have everything in moderation, right? Berries are one of our blues battling foods. Fresh berries have a vibrant and light flavor that is absolutely delightful in and of itself. But did you know that they also contain depression lifting components? Strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries are all high in vitamin C, a vitamin that's shown to reduce stress levels and improve overall mood. Because a lot of depression symptoms originate from prolonged periods of stress, giving your body an extra vitamin C boost by eating plenty of berries might just do the trick to lift your spirits. As a bonus, it'll boost your immunity too. If you're a tea drinker, green tea. Green tea has been medicinally used for thousands of years, right? It improves concentration, energy, brain health, and physical well-being. Green tea is also responsible for the construction of vital proteins and hormones that manage mood. Without the proper amounts of amino acids in the body, the brain struggles to regulate emotions in a normal way. Oranges, citrus fruits. Oranges are another fruit that's high in vitamin C, though, so they'll help minimize stress response while also boosting your immunity and general health. Oranges are also high in folate. They're an essential nutrient for fetal brain development. The connection between folate and the brain continues throughout life, though. And folate can be crucial in diminishing depression symptoms. Oranges are a great food to take along as a snack whenever you need a snack to improve your health. Now, foods to avoid. What are those? We know what those foods are that we should avoid, even though we like them, okay? They say, come to me, all right? So we have refined sugar, use honey instead, okay? We have refined grains and flours, trans fats. We have alcohol, even though we like to sip sometimes, but it's all in moderation, right? Unhealthy fats. When we Uber Eats and DoorDash, if we're doing fast food, those are all things that they'll make us feel good at the time, but it's not doing anything for our mood, okay? I know that, being in the pandemic, we like to, be around family and food and this, that, and the third, but use your Zoom and use your any platform that you have, whether it's Instagram Live, Facebook Live, anything that you have your family get on Zoom or whatever, and you guys make a trail mix together, okay? If there is no wrong way to make the trail mix, there is no right or wrong way to make the trail mix. Do your very berry kale salad. Add your turkey in there if you want. A good way to always stay healthy is to make your own dressing as well, just to give you guys a little tip. And I want to leave you with this. Eating healthy is the start of treating any disease or disorder. Having a good nutrient-rich diet makes it possible for your body to do what it needs to do to recover and rebalance. So remember to think of your body and food like a car that needs fuel. Thank you for having me.
OMG, so remote, and you really did your thing. Thank you so much for all that information. Blues battling food. Try to say that 10 times fast. Thank you so much for telling us which foods actually increase or improve our moods versus the ones that we need to stay away from, especially with the holidays coming up. You know, I know everyone probably has traditions and recipes passed on from grandma or whoever, but we might need to tweak those recipes just a bit to add some of those foods that you mentioned to improve our mood. So that way we don't have to cope with holiday blues like Sora Gibner has spoken to us about earlier in the discussion. So thank you so much for that. Soars, you did an amazing job informing everyone of seasonal blues and signs and symptoms of depression and how to cope with holiday blues, as well as self-care, especially, you know, in terms of our food and our mood. Thank you so much for that. And as promised in the beginning, I did mention that we are going to share with you resources. We are going to post mental health resources for you in both the Facebook and YouTube chats. We also want to send some more information. So Ramon, if you have any recipes that you want me to share with anyone, by all means, provide me with that information. We'll share that as well, so that way we can get started in battling these blues with certain type of food. And also at this time, we're going to have Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free. We will do our best to answer your questions appropriately. Again, we ask that if you have any concerns regarding your mental health, or if you are seeking any type of treatment, we ask that you seek the guidance of a mental health professional. This is just supposed to be a discussion to start the conversation about depression and seasonal blues and so forth. This is not to be used for any clinical purposes. At this time, Sora Mason, do you know of any questions in the Facebook chat so we can get started on Q&A?
There are currently no questions on the Facebook chat, so it could be some on our YouTube page.
There are some on our YouTube page.
All right.
Actually, I'm going to get started. Thank you so
Okay.
much to everyone who has tuned in and has posted questions. Our first question is, although we may not be mental health experts, how can we help someone who may be displaying signs and symptoms of either seasonal blues or depression? And I'm not sure if Dr. C or Sora Ford want to take on this question, or maybe both of you. However you want to answer, we are all set.
Sora Ford, I was going to invite you to also talk a little bit maybe about mental health first aid. But I think one of the first ways that we can help others is to try to take a non-judgmental approach. If someone, excuse me, comes to us and talks to us about having a sad mood or feeling angry, you know, just not feeling well, is try to reduce that stigma. So I recognize I'm a psychiatrist. I talk about these things all day, every day, but I do recognize that there's sometimes judgments and values out there. And so I'm always trying to take that pressure off of everyone. And I think we can always start with a non-judgmental approach. And Sora Ford, I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about mental health first aid. That might be a good segue into that.
So mental health first aid is first what it says, first aid for your mental health, right? So with that, we often hear about being the first one online for medical first aid, right? Why isn't there anything for our mental health, right? So we want to be able to get the skills and knowledge around the signs and symptoms of mental health disorders. This will not make you an expert, but you will be the first person on the line if you see somebody or someone come to you and say, these are the things that I'm dealing with. So through mental health first aid, you'll learn an acronym, ALGE, and you'll just be able to assess for suicide and harm. You may just asking questions to a person. Do you feel like you want to kill yourself? And if so, do you have a plan? And then you can listen non-judgmentally. Sometimes people just simply need an ear to hear for someone to listen to them. So they just need you to sit there and listen without judgment and have a conversation with them. And just add simple questions to the person. And then you want to give reassurance. Like I said, there's recovery in mental health. Like mental health is just, you may feel this way, but know that there is also a hope for a future with the signs and symptoms that you may be dealing with. We just have to find you the right treatment to get to. And that's where you will encourage professional help for someone. So again, we are not, we are professionals here on this line, but as a mental health first aider, you may not always be a professional. So you want to encourage someone to maybe see a therapist, a psychologist, a PCP, to even talk to someone who may be living through mental health disorders, that a peer support person that can help a person through this. And also you want to encourage self-help, to learn more about what's going on with you, to learn those self-care skills of, gardening, or maybe taking walks, so breathing and praying and journaling and things in that way. And also we as a state mental health team will be hosting a mental health first aid training in the new year. So we want you all to look out for that information of when we will be doing that training. But we plan to equip you all with this learning about mental health first aid and learning the signs and symptoms there, so we could be the first people there that responds to someone who may be going through a mental health crisis.
Thank you so much for that, Source. I guess my question for you, Soror Ford, is, I know you said that we will be having a mental health training hopefully next month for the community. My question for you is, how would one go about getting mental health first aid training? Is it something that they can search for online? And also, is there a cost to that type of training?
So it is something that you could search for online. You could go to www.mentalhealthfirstaid.com. I believe that's the website. Don't quote me on that. But you can also use your Google search bar and just Google mental health first aid, and it'll take you to the National Council page where you'll be able to search for a mental health first aid class in your area. Now, sometimes there is a cost to mental health first aid. And other times there are organizations hosting free trainings for it. I know that in Allegheny County, especially in the region where I live, I actually volunteer for a foundation and we do free trainings there. So, and there's other places in Allegheny County that may offer free trainings. But if you just go to the National Council Mental Health First Aid page, you'll be able to search for a training. And right now, since we're living through COVID, you can receive the training online. You'll do 2 hours of self-learning, and then 4 hours of instruction from an instructor like myself.
And you are correct, Soror Ford. It is www.mentalhealthfirstaid.org. So we can put that in the chat.
Thank you so much, Soror Mason. And Soror Ford, also, I know Friends Hospital located in Northeast Philadelphia, they also do free mental health first aid training as well. So we'll post that information in the chat as well. And it looks as though that many people who have made comments on YouTube also said that they have had the training and they feel as though it's a really great resource in recognizing signs and symptoms within themselves and others. So thank you so much for that. And Soror Mason, do we have any questions in the Facebook chat before I go to the next question in the YouTube chat?
No questions in the Facebook page, but it's okay.
It's all right. We got more questions in the YouTube chat. It's okay.
Let's get them rolling.
But Sorors, I did post the resources in the chat for everyone to see. There is a Dropbox link with resources for all the counties that the panelists all represent, for Delaware County, Philadelphia, Montgomery, Chester, and Dauphin counties. Everything is broken down in terms of signs and symptoms of depression, where to get outpatient treatment as well as inpatient treatment for both adults and children. I know adults are on here right now, but we want to make sure that we are providing services to children as well who may need any type of mental health treatment. So with that being said, the next question I have is, can seasonal depression, holiday blues, can seasonal blues and holiday blues and depression impact each family member differently? And can one pick up symptoms from another family member? Now, I'm not sure who want to touch on that, Dr. C or Dr. Ford, or anyone else, feel free to chime in. You're gonna do eeny, meeny. We're gonna flip a coin.
I can jump in for a moment. So as I was saying earlier, we may all talk about these things a little bit differently, right? So some of us may have more sadness, whereas somebody else has more irritability. So it may be a similar underlying cause for depression or seasonal blues or holiday blues, but we might express it differently to each other. I don't know that it's necessarily sort of passed along in the sense of how it was worded in the question, but depression in and of itself does run in families. So there is risk if you have other family members who have depression, you yourself are at risk for it. It's not necessarily one that's sort of contagious in the way that COVID is, but it does run in families. At the same time, I think part of what the question was asking is that if there are people who are maybe not having the most positive attitude, who are not working towards these healthy goals, how do you sort of manage that? And that's where things like talk therapy can come in to help you navigate difficult relationships in that sense. But yes, each one of us can experience depression or the blues in a different way and express it differently.
Right. And also, that we talked about certain things could trigger certain people, right? So everyone isn't triggered by the same event. Everyone may experience it in a different kind of way. So that's kind of how it is with depression and seasonal blues and holiday blues. Like everyone experience it in a different way. It may be an event that happened for one family member that was really traumatic to that family member, and it brings them to a place of depression within a holiday season. But for another family member, it's like, oh, well, this is my favorite holiday season. Let's decorate, let's sing Christmas carols. And they're like, I don't want to do that. Something happened around this time to our family, and I don't understand how you could be happy during this time. So everyone experiences everything in different ways. And also, I wanted to add in about the mental health first aid. There is an adult version and a youth version, so we're able to target both audiences, and so that we could be knowledgeable about all communities as we live through the breaking the stigma to mental health.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So, Wars, I'm not sure if anyone else wants to touch on anything before we wrap up our discussion. Is there anything else you want to add or any resources you want to put out there to the community? We can also add that to the chat as well.
I wanted to touch base, ladies, on social relationships and the importance of having them in your life and how COVID-19 has impacted that. Our resiliency skills that we have can be greatly affected by isolation. So, as Dr. C and Soror Ford has mentioned, we can express these symptoms differently to one another. However, if we're isolating and not around our protective factors like our aunts and uncles and grandparents and loved ones or friends who see us often and can pick up when something's wrong, that can also pose as a risk factor. So be sure to know that we have the Resolve Crisis Center. We have different entities that is there for you to call in to to just talk, or crisis intervention line. That's what I'm trying to say. a crisis intervention hotline where you can call and express what your concerns are, so that you can receive the feedback and guidance on the next steps for you to take for your course of action. That's all I want.
Thank you so much for that, Soror Givner. Would anyone else like to share any additional information?
I was just going to also mention that we offer a self-care calendar each month. The Pennsylvania Mental Health Team has a self-care calendar that we've been releasing each month. And essentially in that self-care calendar, each day of the month, you'll see something listed that you can do just for yourself. So it might be taking a walk, eating a healthy food, attending a webinar like this. But it's a great resource to have, just small achievable things that each one of us could do on a day-to-day basis to try to promote healthy living overall, but also mental wellness as well.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And it is Mental Health Thursdays, and our activity today was for everyone to tune into our discussion. Thank you so much for that, Soror 4. So yes, we are definitely improving our mental wellness today with all this information that we have received from you lovely mental health professionals in terms of depression, seasonal blues, coping, and self-care. I definitely appreciate this so much. And we want to thank everyone again who is tuned into this discussion, whether it's Facebook Live or YouTube. Thank you so much for this. If anyone has any additional questions, I'm just going to check the YouTube chat really quick. And I did post in there as well, the mentalhealthfirstaid.org, so everyone can see if there are trainings in their area. We will also share the self-care calendar. We would definitely do that as well, as someone had posted in the chat.
I did receive a little posting from Sora Forte, and she said that you can also get the mental health first aid for free through Miraki, and the certification is good for 3 years. She completed hers 2-day training last year, so that's also some great bit of information. So thank you, Sora Forte.
Thank you so much for that, Sora Mason. And yes, if not only just put questions, if you have any comments or if you know of any resources out there in the community that you would like to share with us so we can share it with the rest of the community, by all means, please post resources. We are, we're not the experts of everything. We just giving some information, but if you know of any additional resources, please let us know so we can share it with everyone so we can improve everyone's overall mental wellness.
I was also going to add that we are going to list one book, actually a resource book that I was a co-author with a group of other psychiatrists, a book that was written by 10 African-American psychiatrists about mental health and common ways to sort of address mental health problems. So if you actually want a book, that would be a great resource as well, just to check out in our resource list as well.
Posting that to Facebook right now.
Yes, it's Mind Matters, a resource guide to psychiatry for Black communities, volume 1. You can purchase it on Amazon. I did post a link in the chat as well. So make sure you check that out once you leave this discussion. And if there aren't any further questions from the chat or any questions or comments from our lovely panelists, any further questions, comments? Okay, again, I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to this discussion. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for all their expertise and discussing their own individual topics surrounding mental health. This has been very informative. This is very much needed considering everything that we're going through with the pandemic, something we never had to go through before, along with racial tensions and social injustices and everything that's going on with the political climate as well. This is very much needed. So thank you so much to everyone, and thank you for everyone's support as well. And of course, we have to make sure we do this again. This was fun, so we have to make sure we try to do this again and have another discussion regarding mental wellness. We need to keep this up. This is not just going to be something that we do around the holidays, or as we approach the new year. We have to make sure that we continue to do this and make sure we uplift the community and, eradicate the stigma of mental illness. So thank you so much for that. And everyone make sure that they have a safe and good evening and also have a safe holiday in the next couple of weeks, okay? Thank you so much, ladies. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
I have to admit, there was two points that I completely forgot.
We're live on YouTube.
Okay, I think everything has ended.
It
Thank you
still
so
says
much
we're
for
live
it.
on YouTube.
Still say
Job
we're
well
live.
done, sorors. Woohoo! Y'all were amazing.
Thank you. It still says we're live on YouTube.
Oh, it does. Okay, hold on.
Oh, shucks.
Give us kudos out there.
All
Yes,
right.
yes.
Well done. Y'all spoke so well. I love it.
Just
Job
we're
well
live.
done,
So
sorors.
Lauren that made me hungry talking about food. I was like, I need a snack. when we done this.
It does.
So are